Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. But we are joined by returning guest, AJ Schulte, NFL, college football, and NFL draft writer and analyst. Thank you so much for joining us again, AJ. How are you doing tonight?
Busy day, I will tell you. We got a lot going on, but I'm excited to be on. I'm excited to be here. It's been a while since I've been on, so
yeah, a lot has happened.
Excited.
A lot has happened.
And hey, there's nothing wrong with being busy, man. Being busy is a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Very good thing.
It's a very good point.
Today has been a doozy. I will tell you all that much. So
There you go.
And speaking of doozies, I'm about to throw you another one. One
Oh,
player
okay.
for Washington in particular is Antonio Gibson. You know, they have the turf toe injury. It's been lingering since December. He should be coming out of it here soon. But we've heard from former guest and Logan Paulson that typically it's an injury that can go on for a long time. But as of right now, AJ, for fantasy football, Antonio Gibson on ESPN is getting drafted. He's ranked right around, I think, round 2, pick 6 for 12-team leagues. Do you think that's too high for Antonio Gibson or too low? What is your opinion on that?
in terms of overall talent, it's too low. I think Gibson, when you look at the skill set he brings as both especially because ESPN, I believe their standard ranking system is based on PPR, right? And the fact that he has that skill set as a receiver, and you saw him get comfortable as a runner too as the season went on, really started to see about that mid-season point. And I think then you look at Washington's offensive line should be getting healthier, improving as well. Yeah, I mean, it's tough to really say because they invested in a lot of different weapons. And so is the offense going to entirely run through Gibson? No. But is he better than a couple of these other running backs? Is he in a better situation than a couple of these other running backs? Especially if you're debating between Gibson and your top backs are going early.
Right.
And here they're in the second round. You're kind of like, oh, Josh Jacobs is kind of there. Maybe there's a couple of other guys that are in here, depending on depending on how your league kind of goes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I just think when you add in his ability, the fact that he was so good, he adjusted so quick as a runner early as a rookie, which is kind of crazy considering he only got 30 or 40 touches his last year at Memphis as a runner. And then I think another year, them improving the passing game as well, I think is going to help as well. It'll help him stop running into as many boxes. It'll kind of spread out the load some. So I definitely think Gibson is a worthwhile investment in fantasy. They're in the second round. Yeah, I take him every day.
Yeah, there you go. So we'll stick with Washington here before we start doing a dive into the rest of the league. One of course, Washington's bread and butter is their defense. That's all everybody talks about, this Washington defense. Where do you have them ranked fantasy wise?
I will tell you, when I've been in a couple drafts. Now, one of them didn't do defense, but the second one did. And I had the first choice of defense, and I took Washington's.
My man.
There you go.
Is that because of Valdivinos, or is that just a professional opinion?
No, it was professional. I mean, I think that when you look, and it could be redraft, dynasty, whatever you want to go with. That Washington defense is young, and they are very talented.
Right.
I think you look across the board. I think they're going to be super disruptive. William Jackson III is a ball hawk adding in there. I mean, they just got back. Jamin Davis is going to be super productive as well. That defensive line cleans up. And I mean, they get to play the Giants offensive line twice a season. They get to play Philly. Philly has struggled with injuries on the offensive line the last couple of years too. So there's a lot of good matchups. And I think there'll be a little bit of some growing pain. I think they play Kansas City a couple of games, some tough opponents like that. But across the board, that defense is super, super talented, and they have continuity as well. Unlike the Rams defense, their defensive coordinator is staying. Jack Del Rio is phenomenal. So I think you have that whole situation, and they're just going to keep getting better. Chase Young is still developing, and we already saw how good he can be and what he's going to be. Cole Holcomb, I think at linebacker is fantastic. Is one of the best coverage backers. Last year he looked fantastic.
Yeah, right.
Then you've got up the middle, Daron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Matt Ioannidis as well. It's just such a talented defense all across the board. So I would definitely, in fantasy, it would be them. It'd be them, Pittsburgh, and the Rams. Those would be my top three.
Yeah. Do you hear that, Chris Shook? I had a conversation with him, and he didn't have Washington listed in his top 10 defenses, and he also scolded me for having Pittsburgh ranked up there. Didn't make any sense to me.
He's a Ravens fan. It's understandable.
Wow. Okay. I
get it. A lot of people are trying to hate on Washington's defense here. So as far as I guess in real life too, because we face some quarterbacks, so many high-powered offenses. But like you said, there's just so much talent on all three levels. I just think that as a whole, this defense is going to stay solid.
Right.
Top five, top three.
And I hate to. I'm not going to bag on any two, but they get to play Daniel Jones and Jason Garrett twice this season. Yeah. Like that's. I mean, they've seen Jason Garrett for a long time, and
Daniel Jones did kill us twice last season. The Giants did beat us. He didn't kill us, but the Giants beat us. But this season, there's no way they're going to let that happen.
Kyle Allen beat us.
In those That's a valid point. Yeah, Kyle Allen.
I just think at the end of the day, when you have all those factors going in, you see some defensive regression. I mean, that happens.
Right.
Every year there's a defensive regression but just in terms of talent level, and the fact that I think they did a good job of addressing their weaknesses in adding Willie Jackson III, in adding Jermaine Davis, that adds to your overall talent. And I think that lets you do some different things schematically. It gives you some better matchup options. So I just think at the end of the day, it's just too good to ignore in terms of fantasy or in real life, really.
Right. Exactly. And jumping outside of Washington to the rest of the league now, this past draft was heavy offense. So excluding the quarterbacks, obviously, because the quarterbacks are going to put up a lot of points regardless.
Great question, Hall.
Who do you think is going to be the number one standout rookie this year? Obviously, Justin Jefferson came in last year with Minnesota, was a huge standout. You had who's another rookie that came in last year? I can think off the top of my head. Justin Herbert.
CeeDee Lamb.
I know he's a quarterback. Yeah, CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb.
Going down, he was still kind of doing his thing. But Justin Jefferson is the one that stands out to me. Who do you think is going to be that rookie to come in and kind of be the Justin Jefferson of the league?
It's tough because there's a lot of talent in really weird situations.
Right.
Like I think Rashad Bateman. I think Rashad Bateman has all the talent in the world, but we don't. Lamar Jackson, we're kind of sitting here going, we don't know how that passing game is going to work. Kadarius Toney can we trust Jason Garrett to use him right?
Even Jamar Chase and Cincy, you don't know how Burrow's going to come back in that O-line.
But so that kind of takes away some of the wide receivers for me, just because a lot of the really good ones ended up in some passing situations where I'm not sure.
Right.
So I'm looking at these running backs and I'm thinking Najee Harris.
Yeah.
Najee Harris immediately. And some people are fading Najee Harris because they're like, the Pittsburgh O-line situation is kind of
he's so
iffy.
Good.
But I really like the Pittsburgh interior offensive line. I think you're going to have Kevin Dotson, who was really good as a rookie. You have Kendrick Green, I think is going to step in at center, who was I loved him as a rookie. And then you have Trey Turner, who's made several Pro Bowls in his career. That's your interior guard. Yeah. And I think when you add in Najee into that equation, that is fantastic. Javonte Williams is getting a lot of hype. I don't know how much he's going to share the load with Melvin Gordon because they invested a lot in Melvin Gordon. He is getting a high contract, and he's got a fantastic offensive line. So I would probably be like, Javonte Williams would be a safer play in Dynasty for me than redraft. Travis Etienne, talented player. He's got to share the load with James Robinson. I think at the end of the day, Najee Harris has no competition virtually in that room, and he's just such a talented player. Like the fact that he's slipping or people are fading him, like, I don't know about Najee.
Mm.
Look, I think he was the best back by far for me last year. And he goes into a situation where there's no competition. He's got a friendly passing game.
And they need to get the running game going.
Yeah, and he
Ben's
can line up
getting
out
older.
wide.
Right.
And he can line up out wide as a receiver.
Wow.
He just does so much that I think in terms of just being safe, a couple of these other guys could pan out. Michael Carter in the Jets could, but there's a lot of question marks.
There's an elephant in the room that was not addressed, and that is my boy Kyle Pitts. He's not the number one selection because of them shipping out Julio. He's getting targets this year.
I do. It's for me. I'm always just a little cautious with tight ends because that's a position that takes a little while to develop. Right. Now, granted, in Arthur Smith with his offense, I'm kind of waiting and seeing how he's going to adjust because Jonnu Smith did not get a ton of targets last year, so he's going to have to change the offensive scheme. But Kyle Pitts is Kyle Pitts, right? He's a really transcendent talent.
Exactly.
And so it'll get figured out. He's just at the end of the day, they're going to be like, oh, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, there's our 11 person. No, just go for it. Just run that way. We'll throw it. You know what? It'll happen. We'll figure it out. So I definitely like Kyle Pitts, and I think moving forward, in Dynasty, it's a fantastic pick. Redraft, I don't know if I would take him over like a Darren Waller, for example, who you just know is going to be force-fed targets. But I think Kyle Pitts is a fantastic talent. It just in terms of there's less question marks and less competition, and you have just such an elite talent already. Najee Harris undoubtedly would be my pick.
I'm glad you brought up him like splitting them out wide because before the draft I was like watching something and they were talking to Mac Jones and obviously they were college teammates and they were saying that like either during college or high school, I can't remember which one, somehow some way they ended up on the same 7-on-7 team, like passing league thing. They were legit just splitting Najee Harris out wide as a receiver and he was just running deep routes, like just going up and mossing people. They said he averaged like 5-6 touchdowns in the passing game a game. So it's going to be crazy for him to see
he had some just
in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he had some crazy circus catches in college tape.
Right,
you see him going out on wheel routes, high pointing the football like a receiver.
Yep.
And then I think in the passing game, I think his pass blocking is really solid as well. There's always adjustment, and certainly there will be going forward. But I just think that he's just too good of a player.
Agreed. Totally agreed. Now, to bring this back to fantasy, and everything going on, there has been a lot of talk locally because everyone's been constantly talking about what was the worst draft pick in Washington football history, right? But for you, AJ, what is your worst draft pick in fantasy football?
Oh, for me, this is going to sound. Keep in mind, this was my first year ever playing fantasy football. And I was in an IDP league. I was in an IDP league as a freshman in high school. My first round pick was JJ Watt. Now, the kicker is this was the year that JJ Watt had like 20.5 sacks and had like 5 or 6 touchdowns as a receiver. So I won the league. But looking back on it, I'm like, I got stupid lucky. I was like,
could you imagine the look on their faces when you selected JJ Watt?
Like, what? You got like Lev Bell going, you've got all of these guys going, and I'm over here like, oh yeah. I was debating between like JJ Watt and like Bobby Wagner, like some idiot nerd, and I was just like
trying to
JJ Watt, that sounds good. And I ended up picking like Cam Newton, I think, is my quarterback, and a couple of I got very lucky, but looking back, it's always like, what a stupid pick. Like
So I'm in an IDP league too, which by the way I love. It's where you draft 3 you have 3 starting defensive linemen, 3 starting linebackers, and 3 starting defensive backs. And all of a sudden, like round 3, you'll start seeing these defenders fly off the board. So you got to hop on them quick, those good guys, because it's not a lot of them that are going to get you guaranteed points every week.
That's true.
So moving on. So this is another question that some people may think it's fairly easy, but I think it's kind of a 3-headed monster. And this is just for anybody out there who's questioning if you have the number 1 pick. I had a number 1 pick last year in a league. It was a 20-team league. I took Christian McCaffrey. We all know Christian McCaffrey got injured. I didn't pick
Right.
again until 39 picks later. Still ended up winning the league. No big deal. I was the champ. But who do you think is the number one pick this year? Do you trust Christian McCaffrey to come back healthy? Do you think Dalvin Cook takes that role? Do you think Derrick Henry is going to continue to be who he is? Who are you taking number one?
It's tough. Honestly, that's such a in terms of overall skill set, Dalvin Cook.
Right.
I think Dalvin Cook he's the focal point. I think he's an elite player. I just think as a runner, he's just got such a natural ability. And I don't know with Derrick Henry losing Arthur Smith like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
Todd Downing at offensive coordinator, the last time he was offensive coordinator, it didn't end up so great in with the Raiders.
And they added another very good pass catcher over there.
So I get a little hesitant with Derrick Henry. I just think in terms of it would be either Christian McCaffrey or Dalvin Cook for me. Okay. I think I picked third in my dynasty league, and I took Saquon. I took Saquon Barkley, but
when healthy,
and Saquon Barkley could certainly be up there. Alvin Kamara is another great one.
Right.
Yeah, I just with Dalvin Cook, I just think, you know what, he's not.
The upside's too high.
Yeah, the upside and the fact that he's in such a friendly offense as well. That offense just runs through Dalvin Cook. Right. Yeah, and we were sitting here going, "Oh, how is Stefanski leaving going to impact him last year?" It really didn't. Dalvin Cook just kept on chugging and plugging.
Yeah.
And so I think if I had the number one pick, I would take Dalvin Cook.
There you go.
Hey, it's not a bad pick. I rode him to the championship. I lost in the championship last year, but still, nonetheless, rode him to the championship.
Right. Yeah, I got last year. The semifinal game was I got caught up against Alvin Kamara when he offered
my God,
touchdowns, and I still ended up winning. Somehow I still ended up with, he had like 50 points, but I just got lucky with the matchups and I ended up beating the guy. But I just kept sitting here just watching him just rattle off all these touchdowns, and I'm going,
you died a little bit inside. Yeah.
And then I ended up edging him out by like 3 points at the end of the week.
I know exactly.
How did I do that?
I know exactly how you feel, dude. Exactly how you feel. I went against Todd Gurley in a championship game in his big year, and when he went, it was like 4 or 5 touchdowns that he went for and just scored a crazy amount of points. I know the feeling. It sucks.
Yeah, you see this guy set the same amount of touchdowns, like tie the record all time that hasn't been touched since like 1930. You're going, why? Why this 1 week did this happen?
Exactly.
That's hilarious. So last year a guy like Stephon Diggs gets traded up to Buffalo, instantly jumps into the top 10 as far as like top 10 like fans. I think he was a top 10 fantasy player. I want to say he was.
Mm-hmm.
Should have been.
So who do you think next or going into this season, who do you think is going to jump into that top 10 as far as a top 10 fantasy player, and who do you think is going to fall out of that top 10?
Well, I think this is kind of more of a rebound. I think Odell Beckham is going to rebound into that. I think with last year when Odell Beckham was healthy, he was dicing up. He was dicing up.
He was Odell.
Matt Harmon did a fantastic article recently with his reception perception, which if you don't know what that is, he kind of goes in and charts success of different receivers, charts their routes, their success percentage by routes, stuff like that. And you watch the tape and it kind of matches up. Odell was getting wide open all the time, and Baker just wasn't comfortable enough yet to really get in the ball. And you could kind of tell early on that Baker wasn't fully settled in, and it happens, right? Every offense was a little slow to get going last year, except for, obviously the Chiefs, because they're just too stupid good.
Yeah.
But I think now that Baker, you saw the last half of the season, Baker got a lot better. You saw that they didn't really have weapons that were getting open, so it was kind of tough to tell. Odell's going to get 100 targets, in my opinion. Oh, wow. I think that offense is going to run through Odell. Now that Baker, they're fully ready to go. I think you're seeing Baker year 2, finally year 2 of the same coordinator, which just is crazy to me that he's going in his 4th year.
Yeah.
and has had so many different coaches.
Yeah.
I think now you're seeing him more comfortable. They've got the good offensive line. We've seen the ability with Odell. We know how good Odell can be.
Right.
I think now the offensive situation is there. I think now he's got the quarterback. The offense is certainly friendly enough for him. So, I think in terms of rebounding, I definitely could see it happen. For me, my other candidate would be like maybe like Michael Thomas rebounding and getting back into that.
Yeah.
After last season.
Right.
In terms of falling out, man, obviously we don't really know the Aaron Rodgers situation. So Devontae Adams, that could be a little bit of that could. I mean, that's just kind of like maybe if Aaron Rodgers isn't playing, we've not seen Jordan Love,
right?
And unless Devontae Adams is really serious about wanting to go play with Derek Carr again, we just don't know what that's like. It's certainly Devontae Adams is an elite receiver. I think he was the best receiver in football last year, in my opinion. But there's some concerns with that. And obviously you're going to have some regression from a few guys. That just kind of happens. I'd be a little surprised if Justin Jefferson does it again. But I think Justin Jefferson is super talented in the own right. But I will tell y'all, Calvin Ridley, that kid is going to be good too.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Calvin Ridley, I think, can make that leap.
A lot of targets. Yeah.
He's already elite, guys. His 2020 film was just nuts.
Absurd. Yeah.
Very underrated.
I think he should have been an All-Pro off of 2020 tape. I think he should have been an All-Pro.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. And it's funny that Hall brought up Stephon Diggs because Stefanski showed in Minnesota with the 2 wide receiver system with Stephon Diggs, he was able to flourish and do that well. So to your credit, AJ, Stefanski being in Cleveland, it would make a lot of sense for Odell to have a bounce back year with him. And oh my goodness, of course, I'm drawing a blank on his name.
Jarvis Landry.
Jarvis
Landry.
Yes. Yeah. It would make a lot of sense. Now, with fantasy in particular, because I've done a lot of mocks, right, AJ, and so I try to make the best pick possible based on where the positional rankings are, right? So I wanted to ask you, what formula do you have in your head, or to give advice to people who are new to fantasy, if you're drafting from rounds 1 through 4? Me personally, right now I'm thinking, I hope nobody remembers this, I'm thinking 3 running backs in the first 3 rounds and then going wide receiver in the 4th.
Hold on, let me get a pencil so I can write this down.
You're putting it on the internet, Kyle.
Based on where the rankings are with running backs, because when you get to those mid rounds, running backs disappear really, and you're banking on backups. So what is your thought process with those first 4 rounds? What advice would you give to people with drafting those?
Yeah. I typically go running back, wide receiver, and then either running back or receiver, depending on depending on the talent there.
Yeah.
Right. This year I was in a 12-team dynasty league, the draft just a couple of weeks ago, and running backs went off the board like hotcakes.
Yep.
I got lucky that I got Saquon because I think my next running back didn't come around till 211, and so or 210, and so it was really tough, especially when you play in those super like you mentioned earlier, Mike. If you picked the 39th, your next pick wasn't until 39. Running backs are gone by that point. You're
there was nobody at that point.
I think with wide receiver play being what it is and almost entirely matchup based, obviously you're going to have your elite guys go early. That's just going to happen. And certainly you could consider a tight end. I don't typically look at that till rounds 4. Some people are just give me Travis Kelce, so I don't have to care. Right? They're like, whatever. Round 2, sure. But I typically go running back, wide receiver, best value, best position. Whether that's if there's a certain run that you can respond to,
right?
Like in this dynasty league, we're sitting about round 5, and quarterbacks started flying. Right? Like Mahomes, Kyler, Josh Allen, and Justin Herbert went the 6 picks before I did. And so I was like, oh, crap. So I was like, okay, I got to take my quarterback here. So I took Dak. But, it's certainly in other leagues with some more standard players or more experienced guys who have their formulas, you're probably not going to have those runs like that whether some people are just like, whatever, round one, Mahomes, sure, But typically your variance is going to be, I've found the leagues that I've usually won, except for that JJ Watt year, it's usually been running backs, get the running backs I want early, get the wide receivers, and then if there's another guy that comes around, like if somebody falls like a Clyde Edwards-Helaire or somebody like that in rounds 4, snipe him. If not, I'm typically going Calvin Ridley, Stephon Diggs, whoever's there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's a very interesting. That's a very good way to look at it. So another one that I have for you. Who is a sleeper player this season that you are targeting? I mean, you don't have to give away everybody. I know you've got some people that you're targeting in the mid to late rounds that you don't want to tell anybody. But who are some players that you think could have the biggest seasons that nobody's really talking about right now?
Oh man, hold on. Let me go to my my dynasty league here. So I think he's kind of gotten some more traction I've seen here lately, but Brandon Ayuk is a guy that I want a lot of shares of.
Right.
I think personally, for me, I think Brandon Ayuk at the end of the season we could talk about is better than Deebo Samuel.
Okay. Yeah.
I think
Shanahan loves him.
That skill set of Trey Lance, because I think Trey Lance is going to start at some point during the season. Certainly before the trade deadline, I think you're going to see Trey Lance step in, and combined with Ayuk's downfield ability, that's just a matchup that I can't help but see Shanahan exploiting at least 2 or 3 times a game deep. I also really like guys like Darnell Mooney in Chicago playing with Justin Fields.
Right.
Darnell Mooney was really productive last year playing with Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles.
He lit up Jalen Ramsey for that one, a couple of routes.
A couple of those reps,
Chicago fans won't let that go. Jalen's pissed about that.
And so he's also another guy that's super electric downfield. I think they get him a lot of gadget plays. That offense's wide receiver 1 is Allen Robinson, and he's certainly elite talent. But your other options there are Anthony Miller's kind of been more a dream than reality. Darnell Mooney's in a great situation with Justin Fields, his arm talent downfield, his accuracy as a passer. That's another guy. Obviously, Elijah Moore with the Jets.
Loved him coming out.
It's just so good. But in terms of sleepers, there's a couple tight ends that I'm really interested in looking at, and one of them is Cole Kmet. With Chicago,
very talented again.
Anthony Ferkser, who's taking over as Jonnu Smith in Tennessee.
That's a really good
I'm sticking again with Cleveland. David Njoku. I think he was the best tight end on the Browns.
I was about to say he's just better than Austin Hooper. He is.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where like every year everyone says that. It's just like, is this the year?
Remember, every year everybody also said Vernon Davis was never going to break out. He finally did.
What was crazy with David Njoku was he would get open when they would give him the ball. You look at the Kansas City game. He was like one of the only receivers that got open in that playoff.
Right.
And he wasn't even a receiver. He was a tight end. Right. And he got better as a blocker. That showed up. The drops, he only had 1 drop last year, which is a noticeable decline from his past. And I think now going into year 2 with Stefanski, I just think he late round, if you're sitting there going, who the heck are these guys? I don't know any of these names, right? You're sitting there, maybe Kyle Rudolph, whatever. David Njoku. I got him in like round 15 of this 16 round league. Okay. I think it's just like a sleeper little pick that I really think is going to break.
Yeah, I like that.
That's a great way to put that, AJ.
High upside.
Now to end this up here, AJ, my last question for you. Last year, J.D. McKissic in PPR formats was kind of like the unsung, underrated hero that came out of the season, really did well for PPR owners. So if you could predict this season, who is going to be this year's version of J.D. McKissic on the offense, somebody that could come up and you could plug in and start randomly if you needed it in case of emergencies?
In case of emergency, that's tough. For me, Najee Harris. No.
For Washington's offense, I'm sorry.
in terms of, are you supposed? Is this a Washington specific or just general?
Yes, sir.
Kind
Washington
of
specific. Who could
Washington
be the
specific.
unsung hero for Washington this year? Come out and actually do well in fantasy.
Oh man, I really like De'Ami Brown. I think De'Ami Brown
See, you smelling what I'm smoking. That's what I like.
Is obviously kind
So
of
do the police, Kyle. They're on their
answer.
way.
I mean, you're kind of hoping that Antonio Gandy Golden becomes their red zone threat.
Yeah.
But I mean, I wasn't super high on Gandy Golden, and they added a lot more competition. Maybe Jarrett Patterson becomes a running back 2 or 3, becomes kind of more of a goal line back.
I could see that.
So with Washington, it's tough because now there's a lot of attention, and so trying to find that kind of under the radar. Gibson,
Yeah, that's a solid point.
Gibson's ADP has come just skyrocketing.
Oh yeah.
From where it was last year.
Right.
And so now, I mean, Lamar Miller is a good back, but I mean, I don't know how much he'll be contributing. So I mean, J.D. McKissic in deep PPR formats would be somebody, but for the general NFL, for a similar guy, Nyheim Hines with the Colts.
Okay.
Nyheim
Hines. That's a very good one.
I love that kid. Personally, I thought he played better than Jonathan Taylor did last year.
Yeah.
But obviously the offense is going to go through Jonathan Taylor, right? Yeah. They invested the capital into him. Overall, as a back, he's probably going to end up being better than Nyheim Hines. But for that sneaky PPR pick that you're just kind of like, screw it. He kind of fell through the cracks here a little bit. If you're sitting there around 13, 14, you're kind of going, just give me that guy that I think could do something. Nyheim Hines. I mean, he's an awesome receiver. He's an awesome receiver. He's a good runner. I don't know how much Marlon Mack is going to really play coming off of injury. I don't know that whole situation going on. Jordan Wilkins doesn't sound like he's going to be the running back 2 in Indianapolis. So I think Nyheim Hines has the opportunity and the skill set to kind of be that second little fiddle there with Jonathan Taylor.
I love it. That's exactly what I'm looking for, AJ, trying to give our listeners a little bit of expert advice on what to do with fantasy. These are some hard-hitting questions. I can't thank you enough, AJ, for again taking some time out and joining us.
Oh, y'all are great. I could keep going. I could keep.
All right, we'll get you on again, AJ. Probably before the season. That way we can really go in. Once the starting depth chart is really put together, we'll have a better idea for the fantasy season. So let's get that scheduled and bring you back here, because that was fantastic as always, AJ. I can't thank you enough.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me on. It was a pleasure,
brother. You have a good night, AJ.
Man. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You too. See y'all.
All right, we just spoke with Valdivinos' boy, AJ Schulte. That was great.
Love AJ, definitely. And I really love that Nyheim.
Yeah, that was a good pick.
Because a lot of people forget. I know we didn't show it last year, but I talked about it all last year. Jonathan Taylor's fumble numbers in college were just like insane.
Oh, stupid.
That might show up again eventually. So Hines may end up getting more carries eventually down the road.
That's a good point.
He might have fixed it. Yeah, he probably did. I'm probably talking out of my ass.
yeah, probably not though. But on serious, let's move on.
I can talk out of my ass.
Before we get to our fan questions, we have our funny family stories that we're going to talk about here. So, Hall, I'm not sure if you have one ready and chimed up for us. Let's hear it.
So, this is when I just turned 18 years old back in the good old days.
Yeah.
And I'm up in Mountain area hanging out with my cousin. You know, my cousins live up there.
This is like the 1950s, just so you guys know. Hall's very old. He doesn't look like it, but he's old.
Very old.
I am. And black don't crack.
I was just about to say that, but didn't want to.
So we're 18, you know, like, oh, we can go to a club in Baltimore. Let's do it. This is gonna be cool. This is gonna be fun. Hell yeah. So of course, you know, we had to get a little pregame going on. Like, got a little hookup at the liquor store. So for some weird, strange reason, I used to like love Bacardi Gold back in the day.
Yeah,
this shit is gross. I don't know. I was young and dumb. Who knows?
Same thing with SoCo Lime with me.
Yeah, I used to like, you know, I'm day drinking, like getting it in throughout the day. Just like I'm at the basketball court, shooting jump shots, taking swigs of the Bacardi as I'm running down the court. Just stupid craziness. So, like I said, later on that night, my cousin's like, yo, let's go to the club. Got some girls wanted to go, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, hell yeah.
Pretty sure you told this one before. I know how this ends.
Yeah, I probably did. So, we're drinking, taking shots in the basement. It's like 8, 9 o'clock. You're like, all right, let's roll out. So, like, all right, cool. It's me, my boy at the time, my cousin, and 2 girls. The 2 girls are in the front seat because it's their car. They're driving. I'm in the middle. My cousin's on the left. The other dude's on the right. We're in there just chilling, do. On the way to Baltimore, it's a not even really long ride, but it's a long ride when you're drunk as hell. So we get like maybe like 10, 15 minutes out. I'm like, I can feel my stomach starting to churn. I'm like, oh man, something's not right.
No.
And I turn to my cousin. I'm like, yo, man, like trying to switch seats for like 5 minutes. I gotta like put the window down, get some fresh air. Of course, my cousin being an asshole, man, get the hell out of my face. Shut up. You good? I turn to the right. I'm like, yo, Nick, dog, you trying to just put your window down for a little bit? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, come on, man. Like, I'm starting to get the sweats. He's like, man, you're good, dog. We're almost there. You're good, man. Just hold it. Then he decides to smoke a cigarette. And at that time, I didn't really smoke cigarettes. I hated to smell cigarettes. It just made things even worse. So I'm like literally tapping him like, yo, like this is going to end bad. Please, just like let me switch seats. Let me get out the window real quick. This is going to end bad. So lo and behold, another like 2-3 minutes passes by. They're like, I'm like, yo, I need something. They passed me a medium-sized McDonald's cup. You think that was really enough to hold all that throw up? Hell no. I end up just projectile vomiting into the front seat all over the girls. Like, oh, they're in their hair, all over them. I'm throwing up all over my cousin in the back. Yeah, we're like literally like getting off the exit to the club, which is like right off the exit, like 5 minutes out. Needless to say, like the girls were pissed. They're probably pissed at me to this day, honestly. Yeah, it was a very bad night. I got back to my cousin's house, obviously instantly passed out. They drew on my face, deservedly, because I ruined everyone else's night.
Yeah.
And to this day, they don't let me live that down when I see them.
So lesson learned, by the way, from these Hall stories: never get into a fucking
don't get in the car with
Hall.
me.
Yeah,
Every
stay away
story's
from
of
a
ours.
car. Yeah.
Don't go anywhere near Hall in a car, please.
So that was a great one, Hall.
That was.
If you guys remember my story from last week about my parents confiscating my condoms, my shoebox, and my paraphernalia, well, I was grounded from that for a very long period of time. I think it was like a month or 2 months. So it was heavy. So my parents, my dad, you have to understand, my dad's a very hardworking guy. He's very simple. You know what I mean? Like he likes to do a couple things, and one of the things is playing video games. So I'm grounded, right? I'm walking through my house, and I see my front door is wide open. So I look at my front door, and I'm like, what the heck? So I look outside. I don't see anything. So I walk out the front door, and I look down the street. I see my little brother Michael, who's like 2 or 3 years old in his diaper, standing out in the corner of the street with no shirt on, nothing, just a diaper, just standing there looking around. So I ran down there and got him, and I brought him home. And my dad was in my room playing Halo at the time. So I ran upstairs to my dad, and I was like, Dad, Michael was down the street, like hanging out in the street. And he was like, oh my goodness, please don't tell Michelle. Please don't tell Michelle. I said, all right, I won't tell Michelle if you take me off grounding. And that's how I blackmailed my dad.
It worked?
It worked.
I guarantee it did.
That was a huge leap of
You
faith.
getting
I
caught
was
with
very surprised by the reaction.
Yeah,
I thought I was going to
right.
get my ass beat, but no, he was like, okay.
But
I was like,
see, now as a parent though, you understand him and
Yeah.
exactly why he was like, do not tell your mother this,
Yeah.
because that is scary as hell and that's super dangerous. So mine's a little bit interesting. I'll give you a quick backstory. So I have a little brother. A lot of you guys don't know this. I have a little brother I have 2 little brothers, first of all. There's 5 people in my family. I'm the middle child, as you can tell. That's why I'm always starved for attention. Little brother Brian, who has Down syndrome, and a little brother Nick, who's younger than him. So my cousin Megan is getting married in Nashville, Tennessee. We're going down there for the wedding. I'm driving, and I'm taking my little brother with Down syndrome, Brian, and Nick, and we're going down for the wedding. We have to stop and stay at a hotel overnight because we left kind of late. So we stop at a hotel. We get some Chinese food. Brian, we call him Beezer, just so you all know. In our family, we call him Beezer. Beezer gets this type of lo mein or chow mein, some sort of noodles, whatever it is. He doesn't really eat it at first. We end up putting it in the fridge. I wake up in the middle of the night and he's scarfing it down, like big time, like just scarfing. So I'm like, all right, well, have fun with that, and you're gonna regret that later. So we get back on the road in the morning, and we're driving, and literally 5 minutes into the trip, I hear Brian Beezer go, Michael, And I was like, what? And he goes, oh God. And I was like, what's wrong? What's wrong? He goes,
You know what that means?
I have to shit. I have to shit. And I was like, well, okay, man, you're going to have to hold on. He goes, oh man, I'm going to shit my pants. And I was like, oh no. So I pull over, and keep in mind, I'm doing an impression of Brian so you guys can understand it, but it kind of speaks in like vowels almost, kind of like he's not that retarded, but so anyway, so we get there and I pull up to a gas station and I whip out, and immediately, as soon as I open the door for him, the kid pukes, which I was just like, I thought you had to shit. Okay, that was weird. And I take him inside. He's wearing gym shorts. I take him inside and I'm like, excuse me, sir, do you have a bathroom? And he's like, yes, but it's not available to customers. Not available to customers. Apparently he was Russian. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, my little brother here, he really, really has to go to the bathroom. And the guy's like, okay, this once. And I open up the door. Brian goes in there. Beezer sits down. He locks the door immediately. He's in there for like 10 minutes, and I'm chilling, just waiting for him to come out. And all of a sudden I hear, excuse me, sir, can you come here? And I'm like, okay. So I go over, and then he goes, what is that? And I look down, and there's a huge Chipotle burrito-sized piece of shit on the gas station floor. And
wait, like, in the bathroom or in like the lobby? Like
in
cashier?
the lobby, like in front of the register. And because he was wearing gym shorts, and I guess he shit and it just slid down his leg. And so the guy's literally like, he's like, sir, I'm not picking that up. We're about to be busy. It's busy season. We're about to be very busy. I cannot pick that up. And I'm like, well, I'm not fucking picking it up. he's like, sir, this is my business. You have to pick it up. You have to pick up. And I was like, fuck. All right, give me some gloves. Give me a trash bag or something. And he hands me like 2 paper towels. I'm like, this isn't enough. This is not enough. And then he's like, okay, well, I guess I can give you bags, but I charge you for bags. I'm like, you're not fucking charging me for these bags, dude. And he gives me like 2 bags. I'm like, that's still not enough, man. I don't want to feel the warmth. I'm going to throw up. He gives me like 7 more bags. I have to scoop it up, and I scoop it up into a bag, and my little brother Nick's sitting in the car, he didn't even bother helping cleaning up any of the puke or anything that was on the car, and I'm just carrying something, and he just puts his head out of the window. He's like, everything okay? I'm like, yeah, Nick, everything's fine, as I'm throwing shit into the dumpster. And I come back out, and I go into the store, and he's like, there's a mop in the I'm like, I'm not fucking mopping the rest of it up, dude. No, this isn't my job. I don't care about you and your shitty gas station. I'm leaving. So I go in there to get Brian. I open the bathroom door, and he's butt naked, and I'm like, Beezer, you shit on the floor, man. Like, come on. And he's like, sorry. And I'm like, okay, all right. So he gets dressed. I take him out, and I feel bad for the guys. So I go up to him, and I'm like, I'll have 20 on 6. And he's like, and then we left. At least I got gas from him, though.
Here's 20 on 6.
I mean, that was the least I could do.
You should have walked back in and be like, man, it smells like poop in here.
Yeah. Should have put a sign out there and been like, don't go in that bathroom. It smells like shit.
Oh, that is hysterical. That's a good bit. But we have a fan submission for a funny story, and this is from our guy Scott Hartley. He said his father was in the Gulf War, Operation Desert Storm. He was in the British F-103 Spartan APCs to enter Iraq from Kuwait during the ground war. Damn. Anyway, he was the driver, and the boys had laced his brew with laxatives as a bit of a banter. Unfortunately, this backfired when he powered on through shitting his drawers, and the smell was none too pleasant. So me and my dad were stationed at the same Royal Air Force base. It's my first time ever at an Air Force base, and I just got out of training, so we traveled to work together. I'm thinking to myself on the drive and how proud he will be, and that's going to be a great first day. Anyway, we're rolling up in the car, and he sees the station warrant officer on his bike. He's a big, scary dude who's in charge of the whole base, dressed in discipline as the highest rank of the NCOs. He leans out the window and shouts at the top of his lungs, "Oi, you ginger bastard!" Next thing I see is the bike goes flying, and he runs over to the car stuck in traffic. I almost had a panic attack, and he pace stuck, rolled down the window. As he's about to shout, he sees it's my dad and says, "Piss off, Jordy, you dick." He had no idea they were big mates back then. That's a funny bit there, Scotty.
That is good. That's really good, Scotty. And Scotty posted that in the Discord, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
That was
so in our
fantastic.
Discord
That was
chat,
fun.
that's how you could send.
Yes.
If you have your own stories you want to
Yes.
tell, if you have anything you want to implement,
Yeah.
come and talk to us on our Discord chat. It's open for everybody. Just come in, talk. We only have the VIPs in there right now, but anybody's
Yeah.
able to join. You want to be a
Anybody can join
VIP?
it.
Bring it on,
Go
baby.
go to the burgundyzone.com, scroll down, join the Discord, and we will let you in. And Scotty, by the way, Scotty has a lot of funny stories. Scotty
he
and
does.
Burrows and Sergio.
Some of those Discord chat stories we can't say on here, but my goodness, they were hilarious.
Yeah, those a lot of those are the ones that we can't say on air that we'll say for just the
week
VIP
one.
section.
I'm actually psyched 'cause that's my seat neighbor, so I'm gonna hear all these.
Oh
stories.
yeah, you're gonna hear some fantastic stories.
Now let's move on to our fan questions, and let's start with the Colonel. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on Tuesday.
Can I just say
Yeah,
on
man,
air? I
this
didn't. Yeah, dude. That was the worst experience ever Wednesday with internet, with just shit going on. And the one time the Colonel was there, I saw the Colonel, and I finally got to put his face to the name, and I was so pumped to be on there with the Colonel. I saw him for 5 seconds, and I
don't feel bad because I couldn't. My screen. I don't know what was going on with my screen and my Zoom, but like my whole screen was black. I couldn't see anything. So the whole time I couldn't even see the Colonel either.
Colonel, when you're watching this, I'm very disappointed. And you have to come back on here soon because I really want to talk to you because I think you seem like the funniest, most interesting dude in the world.
It was hysterical what he did. He hit a really good bit.
Yeah.
Now, his question for us is, what is the standard procedure for old jerseys like RG3s? Should he have it tailored and sewn like with a Samuel name tag instead put on over the Griffin? Should he sell it on eBay? Should he burn it? What should he do?
So that is a good question. I had a Donovan McNabb jersey when we first traded for Donovan McNabb, and it's stitched. And I've been wanting to get it restitched with Truss Way forever. And I just decided one day, I was just like, it's too much of a hassle. I didn't even know where to start. Fuck it. I just threw it away. But I'm very disappointed. But you can get them restitched, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like a very real thing. You can take it somewhere. I would totally do that with a Curtis Samuel jersey. The only thing is I know it'll say Redskins on the front instead of Washington. But hey. I mean,
he has two RG3 jerseys, and the one is the Salute to Service RG3 jersey he was given after he retired. So it's like the camo green 10 with the flag on it. It looks beautiful, but I don't think that's the one he's going to change. The one he's going to change is the RG3 jersey, and yes, it should be sewn. But I know, Colonel, I know you probably know a lot of people out there. There's got to be someone out there who knows how to sew, and they could easily get it. You just got to buy the stitches for it. So yes,
wouldn't that be interesting if the Colonel actually knew how to sew? You would never expect that.
That's true. He probably does. Seriously, the
I was
guy
about
can
to say,
do everything.
I feel like he knows how to do everything, so it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, I'm definitely sewing it. I'm cheap and I'm broke, so I mean I'm going cheap.
I'm right there with you. Yeah. His next question is there a single unanticipated X factor on offense or defense that could boost our team into the Green Bay, New Orleans, and Seattle kind of teams this year?
Oh, so I just think in general the X factor is going to be speed on this offense. I think if De'Ami Brown pans out, just having him and McLaurin on the outside and then having Curtis Samuel on the inside at the slot, that's going to be huge with Gibson on the field or McKissic. But another thing that's being very underrated is Logan Thomas, and if John Bates pans out or Ricky Seals-Jones, whoever takes that next level, having two tight ends that are both capable of picking up, that is just going to open things up for the outside. That's going to do wonders. So there is a way. And if Fitzpatrick plays more Fitzmagic than Fitztragic, then the speed on this offense and two tight ends could be very scary.
Yeah, I know it's not going to be like everyone's going to like it or enjoy it. It doesn't make much sense, but I've said it multiple times in this pod. I think it's Sadiq Charles. If Sadiq Charles comes in right away and blows the doors off of the left guard spot, think about it. Sean Leval was probably the last left guard that we had that was like serviceable, did really, really well.
Eric Flowers that one season.
Well, Eric Flowers, but I mean like, we really haven't had left guards that consistently came in and were a powerhouse. So generally, that was the one weak link on the offensive line. If Sadiq could come in and take charge of that left guard spot and actually turn this running game into a threat to defenses, I think that could elevate this team to that next level. If they have a consistent running, if they can run the ball consistently, play the defense that they can, they're a very, very tough team to beat, and that would elevate them to Green Bay and New Orleans, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the linebacking core and how the linebackers play this throughout the season. Like we said before on the pod, Ron Rivera was calling out the linebackers left and right last season in practice, most likely in the locker room, most likely, definitely in the media because we heard it in the media multiple times. I think that if Jamin Davis can be able to come in, pretty much become like not like Luke Kuechly or Thomas Davis, but
right.
Rivera's Luke Kuechly for this defense, kind of the captain of this defense, kind of the guy in the middle that gets everything going. can play free behind his defensive line, especially with Matt Ioannidis coming back. I think that that's going to open things up for a guy like John Bostic, who's a tackling machine. If a guy like Cole Holcomb, who has speed sideline to sideline, can stay healthy and just play a little bit more consistent, which I think he can in year 2 of this defense under 2 linebacking coaches like Del Rio and Rivera. I definitely think that, and we said it on the last podcast, 3 things are always promised: death, taxes, and Washington getting beat by tight ends.
Yep.
Yeah.
You get a guy like Jamin Davis on the field. He was covering a guy like Kyle Pitts down the seams and all over that game against Florida last year. Did a pretty good job against Kyle Pitts. So I definitely think that him coming in, then being able to bolster, especially a guy like Travis Kelce we played this year, be able to lock down a guy like Travis Kelce, other multiple tight ends that we played throughout these 17 games. I think that, and then obviously we were middle of the road against the run last year, mostly due to the linebacker play.
Yep.
So if they can step up and we can get within the top 5, top 10 of rush defense to go along with the pass defense, this defense will be a whole complete defense in all 3 levels. And it's only going to bode well for the offense.
Yeah, totally agreed. Now, our next question is from Washington Football Team News, our guy Colin Dunphy, contributor for the BurgundyZone.com. Speaking of, we just released a new article. George Carmi goes over the defensive side of the football, how it's different from last season to this season. Did they improve, take a step back at certain positions? Make sure you go check out that newest article, the defensive version of Training Camp Review by George Carmi at theBurgundyZone.com. But Colin's question for us is: you have 5 rookies and sophomores to place on a team of veterans. Would you rather put all 5 of them on the O-line, or 3 at cornerback and 2 at safety? All these draft picks are high value between rounds 1 and 3. So would you rather put a bunch of young bucks on the offensive line, or strictly on defense in the secondary and linebackers?
I'd probably go all 5 offensive line, just for the simple fact quarterback's the most important position on the field. Everything runs through the quarterback. Obviously, if you have an offensive line of 5 guys that have started from the beginning and molded together, kind of grown together, become one kind of just single line, that's the best. That's how you become the best offensive line in the league.
Right. Chemistry.
And it's going to bode well for the running game, open up things in the passing game because you can open up the play action. Obviously, if you're running the ball, putting up points, that bodes well for your win-loss record. The defense get off the field a little bit longer, get the rest a little bit longer. So offensive line is definitely a position I would put all 5 guys at.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hall. You kind of said it perfectly. The one thing I will add to it is, like, offensive line, you need cohesion between each other. And if you have more things in common, like you're all young rookies, that's an easier way for you to kind of gel, kind of have that good cohesion. Defensively, with DBs and secondary and linebackers, you need that veteran presence, because quarterbacks like Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes, they'll mischieve you with their eyes. They'll do things to get you off base. And if your entire defensive secondary and linebackers are young and not adverse to that, you're going to be in a very bad position. So for me, it's putting all 5 on the offensive line.
Yeah. I would hate to make this boring, but I'm going to agree with you guys. But I will say the one thing is the first season should be fairly rough, because those defensive linemen, man, they're going to do a lot of moves. They're going to pull a lot of shit that the offensive linemen haven't seen before. Everybody says it's a different game once you get to the NFL, but that can also think about what the receivers are going to be doing to the cornerbacks, think about what these tight ends are going to be doing to these linebackers. So like you guys said, offensive line, I think having a solid defined offensive line for years and years. Think about the Hogs. Think about what we could do with that offensive line. If you can just build and have that chemistry and those players, that cohesion, all playing together and rolling like a well-oiled machine for a long time, your offense is going to be fine. I'm going to go offensive line as well.
Yeah, I totally agree. Now, our next question is from Prince Akeem. He wants to know, how did you guys become Washington fans? He puts in there that him and his dad are fans of the Washington football team, but that's the only one. He's a Florida fan. His dad is FSU. He's a UNC basketball fan. His dad is a Duke basketball fan. So he wants to know, where did you guys get it?
Can I answer this one first?
Yeah.
First of all, I've said this on two other shows, but I just want to say it's not cringe, Parker, for me to be a fan of all DC teams. Okay. But also, no, I was born into it. My entire family, everybody's always been Washington fans. For every sport, everything, I was just born into it. And when you're a kid and you're growing up watching Washington, and you're from a young age taught to hate the Cowboys, you're taught to hate the Giants, you're taught to hate the Eagles, you're taught to hate everybody that's not wearing burgundy and gold. That has an effect on you. And trust me, if I got to choose I wouldn't have chosen what I went through for the 31 years, you
Right.
know, but I didn't. I was born into it, and Burgundy and gold runs through my veins. It's in my blood. The doctor says that the gold in my blood is probably a rare disease, but it's okay, and I will be fine. So.
For me, it's just like Reed. I was born into. You could see pictures of me as a kid, you know, with Washington gear on. But I'll be perfectly honest. Like, it wasn't like football wasn't crazy big in my household. My parents met because of soccer. My dad was a soccer kind of guy. He wasn't football. Didn't play football in high school, so it wasn't really that pushed on us. But it was just one of those things where I'm a Washington fan. That is what it is. But throughout my teen years, the real pressure, like to wanting to watch football, that was all on my end. It wasn't like it was. A lot of people have like their parents, families that have a lot to do with it. Mine did somewhat, but it's not as pressurized as others.
Yeah, I think I said this before a couple of times on here on the or previous pods that when I was like, I guess what was I, 4 years old at the time, 91. My parents had like a Super Bowl party for obviously the Redskins when they won that year, and there's pictures like to this day I have them like somewhere around this house, and I'm wearing like a little like Washington like onesie and stuff like Redskins onesie and stuff. So there's that. Also, like coming up like. When I first started playing football, my uncle, shout out Big Tim, he's the one that kind of like Big Tim. He's the one that kind of got me and my cousin was like in the backyard training us, running routes, doing like backpedaling drills. Well, he played college football at Salisbury, which obviously Salisbury kind of has the same colors as Washington. And he was a huge Darrell Green fan because he played cornerback. So he always had like he was always rocking a Darrell Green jersey, always rocking like the Salisbury colors or Washington colors. So I kind of got into that. And then fast forward. Like my dad is a big Redskins fan. He doesn't really like broadcast it like that because he's not really like that much in like sports anymore nowadays. But back then he was a huge fan. Every Sunday, 1:00, we were on the couch sitting there watching the game, or 4:00 whenever they played. So yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it. Been a day one thing.
Yeah, that's how it is, baby. Now, Tony Shivers. Thank you, Tony, our big fan. He wants to know, would you rather do an eating challenge where the food is stupid hot, like ghost peppers hot, or have it with a huge amount of food?
Ghost pepper hot is kind of extreme. I like spicy food, and I'm not like a huge like, oh, I'm gonna stuff my face with 55 plates of food. So I'd probably just take like the spicy route, just because like I like spicy foods a little bit more.
What he means is like basically like, would you rather do a food challenge where it's spiciness is the challenge, or where it's like where you go to those restaurants and you have to eat like a 2-pound burger?
Food, right?
Yeah,
as
a food challenge.
I'll probably still keep it spicy, even though my stomach and everything else is gonna hate it later. But I'll just stick it with the spice. I like spicy food.
Yeah, like I like spicy food, but like it has to be like a certain level of spicy. Once it reaches over a threshold, it gets too much for me. But that being said, I'd much rather do the spiciness than I would with a huge amount of food, because there's just no way my little stomach's doing that.
Okay, so I'm just gonna let you guys know. Watch there's a thing on Netflix on this one show about these spicy eating things. Look, I'm the biggest spicy food guy. I know I'm white, you wouldn't believe it, but I love spicy food. Like I carried hot sauce with me all the time.
Like spicy ice,
everything. Yeah, I always have spice on my food. Some of those peppers, like ghost peppers, like there's shit way beyond ghost peppers that they have you eat, and there's people vomiting. They have to go to the hospital. Their faces beat red. They're bleeding. Their throats sometimes. Like it.
Oh my goodness.
Get extreme. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna go do a man versus food eating challenge. Give me a 5-pound steak and a 6-pound milkshake. I don't care. I'll try it. I fail. At least I'm stuffed. At least I'm not in the hospital dying and then having to shit out blood onto the gas station floor and having to pay a guy $20 because I feel bad at that as I ruined his gas station.
You didn't ruin his gas station. It was already crappy. No, thank you, Tony. Our next question is from Tony Franchise. Tony with an I, not with the Y. He wants to know, who was an obscure player that was your favorite growing up? His was Tony Allen, the running back in the mid-90s. So I'll start this off. I've said it before. Rocky McIntosh, dude, that was my guy. I just felt like the name, the way he played, that was my dude. I just can remember watching games of his mid-2000s, rooting for Rocky McIntosh. He was one of my favorites.
My guy is the one, the only, the myth, the legend, James Thrash. When he was in Washington, I used to love me some James Thrash. Even when he went to like Philly, I think he played for the Giants.
Yeah,
I used to hate. I still hate those teams, but I used to get sized whenever James Thrash would make a catch or a touchdown. So that was my guy. And he came back to the Redskins, I think, twice.
Yeah, so something like that. So I always liked Steven Alexander, number one. Remember that old tight end he played back in the day with Stephen Davis and all them. He was good. He was a pretty solid tight end. But another person that I don't think gets nearly enough credit. He was never anything special. Don't hate me for it. But Chris Horton, remember that name?
Yeah.
I always cheered for Chris Horton. I always wanted him to do well, and I have no idea why. I just thought
because it was after Sean. We were looking for the free safety, and that's what we kind of drafted
and he
him
looked
for.
cool with the dreads. I wanted him to go back there. I wanted him to.
He had a really good game. His career game was against the 49ers. I want to say was like he had like not a pick six, but I remember him getting a pick that game.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
totally. Everyone, thank you so much for all your fan submissions. Thank you to the two Tonys. Thank you to the Colonel. Thank you to Scott Hartley for your family story. That was incredible. That was great stuff, dude. Thank you, everyone, for all your contributions. Again, if you want to join the Discord chat with us, make sure you just look up the Burgundy Zone, #talk to us. We're going to be able to be in there. We're going to talk about our family stories. We're going to go off the chain just a little bit. Reed just says a little bit too much. I know you want to be there. But also, if you haven't already, if you want to read something, you're waiting for the train, waiting for the bus, you're at the MVA. I don't care. Go and look up the burgundyzone.com, our latest article by George Carmi. It's very, very well done, breaking down the defensive side of the football and how it's different from last year to this year's team. Dang. All right, everybody.
And also, I've got a 10-part article coming out here.
Oh my goodness, I forgot.
I've got a 10.
On Monday, it's being released.
Yes. Well, the first part it's going to be released twice a week. It's a 10-part series, so for 5 weeks it'll take. But it is about why the Washington football team, as the dumpster fire that it has been known as for the last 25 plus years. And you don't want to miss it. There's some interesting stuff in there, some nuggets you forgot about, and some comedy as well.
Of course there's going to be comedy. You can't spell Mike Reed without comedy.
Actually, I think you can because my name doesn't have a C or an O or a Y.
It does.
Okay. No, you're
All
right.
All right,
no, it does have a
everybody.
C. Michael.
All right, everybody. I'm Kyle.
Paul.
And I'm Old Dad.
We'll see you guys on Tuesday, all right? Washington football. Hey! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.